What up, what up, what up, what up? It's a Good Look with poetry, bars, and hooks. I'm your host, Kim Goodlook Seabrook. And we ran a little bit behind, though, but I'm sure you enjoy the vibes of the music because you know how we do. We got that old school flavor for you. And shout out to DJ Swerve, who was in the building. Shout out to Mass Transit, MTA. No, I'm going to shout them out. You know, I'm trying, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. If you're in New York, you know what I'm talking about. So, so I want to start off with first is Men's Mental Health Month, right? And before I go into my business segment, you can say hello.
Hey, guys.
I do want to share a source message with you guys as I like to start off my day. So this may give some inspiration, especially to the men out there, because a lot of times you guys don't want to talk about what's going on or you got overwhelmed. But this is really for anybody, but definitely just want to give some love to the men today. So you're doing a great job. You hear me? You're doing a great job. But listen, you're putting way too much pressure on yourself. It bogs you down more than it inspires you. It's okay to motivate yourself. In fact, that's encouraged. But you have an entire track record of your past that you're trying to reconcile, as well as focusing on your continued present growth. And you're doing it all. So you can't seem to find satisfaction until it all comes full circle. But the fact is that it will. You hear that? The fact is that it will. You have to find fulfillment in the path of effort you're putting in, And you have to be grateful that you're working it all out. So again, men, you're doing great. Give yourself a round of applause, okay? All right, before we proceed, we on everything? Everything's live? Is he sharing? Okay, we want to make sure. What up?
Good morning.
Grand Rising. So please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name's Evan Higgins. How you guys doing today?
They said they're fine. They said they're doing great.
Good.
Evan, it's nice to meet you. You are part owner?
Co-founder,
Co-founder of KYP. Know Your Politician. Can you give us some background on that?
Yeah, sure. So KYP, Know Your Politician, was started in 2020. My co-founder and I, Kabir Oshodi, shout out KB. Hope he's listening right now.
What up, KB?
We had this idea watching everyone protest in the streets after the death of George Floyd that there needed to be more direct action in politics. When we were watching TV one day, we came across a bunch of ads that showed, former presidents, other people that are in power, asking people to go vote if they really wanted their voices to be heard. But there was no resource available to help you to make that decision. That was the genesis to make us start KIP in July of 2020.
Okay, so you call it KIP. I like that. All
Yep,
right,
we call it KIP.
So it's not KYP. It's KIP. But it is KYP. Know Your Politician, but KIP is how you pronounce it. Sounds good. All right. And, clearly that's how you came up with the name, right? Know Your Politician.
Yeah, we wanted it to be something that super easy. If I said the name Know Your Politician, I think you can figure out what exactly it is that we do.
Exactly. So why is it important for people, especially our people, to be engaged in politics and know their local politicians?
Yeah, I think where we like to focus and like to kind of tell the story is that the federal government, the way that it's structured today, they leave a lot of policy up to the states to decide. An example that I can think about is Roe v. Wade, right? They ultimately ruled that it was up to the states to decide how they wanted to handle a woman's right to choose. Here in New York, right, they passed laws allowing for a woman's right to choose to exist. Other states passed differing laws, right? When you think about even at our local level, you think about congestion pricing, right? That's starting here in the city at the end of the month. These are policies that are set up by our local administration and has nothing to do with policies set forth by the Biden or Trump administration. So helping people understand that, yes, it's important to pay attention federally, but there are things going on here in your local cities and in your local counties that are impacting your life just as well, and they deserve just as much attention.
Absolutely. So what would you tell someone who's like, I don't need to vote. I don't need to know about my politicians. Whatever. I do what I want to do. It is not important to me. They ain't been thinking about it. It ain't going to change nothing. What would you say?
I would say two things, right? They're not thinking about you because you don't vote, right? They are targeting people that are consistently participating in elections because they know that those people have a higher propensity to turn out. And what we want to do here at Know Your Politician is be that bridge between the people that feel that their voice doesn't matter and their elected officials to show them like, hey, there are people out here that do care, that do want to know about what you're doing in office and have genuine interest. They just don't know how. Because when we were prototyping this over the summer, we were hearing comments like that, like my vote doesn't matter or no one cares what I think. And that's not true. When we interview electeds to understand if this was something that they could get behind, the feedback was yes, people can reach us. We want to be more accessible. We just don't know how to reach them.
Okay.
So that us focusing on being that bridge is kind of where we want to take this. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll be able to do that.
Okay. So also what's important, right, is like a lot of times all we focus on is president and vice president. What's the meat of where we need to focus on in our communities?
It's both. So yes, it's important to vote in for our president, and I hope everyone turned out for the primary election that passed here in New York and wherever the upcoming primaries are in the cities that you live in, and that we all turn out in the general to choose who our president's going to be. And because of that process, whoever else is on the ballot will get significant participation. But our participation shouldn't stop there, right? We need to make sure that we're turning out this year because all of our state reps here in New York are up for election, both at the state senator level and at the assembly level. In 2025, right, the city council will be up for election. The mayor's race is happening, right? Every year, it's important for us to participate because democracy is not something that you can check off a box and say that the job's finished. It's never finished. There's always work to be done. And I think it's up to us in our generation to hand off the torch that previous generations have given us.
Indeed. On your website, it says you want politics to be easy and digestible for people. What exactly do you mean by that and why is that important?
Yeah, so our main goal was to address all those comments that you brought up in the example, right? We wanted it something where people can understand very quickly, 30 seconds or less, what does it mean when someone says congestion pricing, right? Like that is a term that is vaguely specific and people want specificity.
Right.
Like, what does that mean? That means that if I enter the city south of 60th Street, I will be charged a fee, right? That bite size of information may be important because people may elicit a certain reaction for them to either participate in politics or disengage and say, yep, I agree with the policy, I'm good, or you know what, I don't agree. Let me look for my elected leader to understand where they stand on that. And we want to enable those interactions. We want you to be able to say when these issues are coming up, so people want to react to something that's happening in the news, they know that there's a platform that's available where they can go to understand where their local leaders stand on a particular issue, and then have the contact information to reach them directly to let their voices be heard. We also want to promote voting and that helping people understand when the elections are, because one of the other things that we heard when we were doing testing was that when people go to vote, it's the first time they're seeing people on the ballot. It's like no idea who that person is.
Right.
And not every election, especially here locally, has funds to promote themselves and go out and try to meet as many people as possible. They just don't have that money. So how can we help make sure that everyone, when they go to that voting booth, they are informed?
Okay, all right. What's the ultimate goal with the movement? I think kind of pretty much said, quite a few things, but what's the ultimate goal at the end of the day? What do you want KIP to represent?
Yeah, we want to just shift the way that people look at politics, right? Like, we don't want it to be this huge process or this huge undertaking or something that feels like a burden. We want it to be something that's easy and be something that's accessible in your pocket so that when the time comes, you have the ability to let your voices be heard, whether it's through organizing, through voting, or whatever means you want to communicate with your electeds.
Okay. You gonna run for something?
No, 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 no.
Why such a big laugh, huh?
No, not
No,
running for
you're
anything.
staying behind the scenes.
Got to stay behind the scenes. I don't think I'm ready for that spotlight.
Okay,
It might be too. That spotlight might be too bright for me.
okay. So how important is this election year? What do we have again coming up?
This election year we have our president. Certain places have like their city council, and then in the state we have our state senate and our assembly members. At KIP, we believe that every election is important, and yes, you know, the presidential elections happening, the state elections happening, but participation is required every year of us, right? People have stood up and fought for the right to vote for a reason. Candidates spend millions of dollars reaching us for a reason, because no matter how much money is put into politics, everyone still gets one vote. And we tend to think that that one vote doesn't matter, but if you look at a lot of the local races, the difference between winning and losing comes down to sometime a few thousand, a few hundred votes. And that could shift the way policy is viewed, how people look at certain communities, what actions are taken. That little difference.
So, you know, you hear sometimes like they're rigged and stuff like that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's a lot of layers to unpack on that. If I could just summarize it in like 60 seconds, is the way that our political process is set up is it was always designed to limit participation, right? Up until the civil rights movement, right? There was always limited participation. And then we started seeing, as we turned into the 20th century, you know, women getting the right to vote, minorities getting the right to vote, right? The system wasn't designed to handle all of that because, again, when they first started in the founding of our country, it was really just landowners. What we're seeing now in our modern time is our generation, especially Gen Z and the millennial generation, we have a greater sense of connectivity because of the internet. And we leverage the internet to do a lot of great things. Like we can buy a car or get a mortgage for a house, right? But politics remains the one thing that is still difficult to access and understand so that I can be informed as a voter when the time comes. KIP just wants to make that process a little bit easier.
Okay, sounds good. Now you mentioned like, you know, women not having the ability to vote at one time. What about felons? What's the situation with that? I know that was an issue. Is that still, you know, a barrier for?
It depends. Some states, they've decided to allow for felons to get the right to vote back after a certain number of years. But this is one of those issues that's a perfect example of why you need to pay attention at the state level and at your local level, because it's your local leaders that can push to allow or not allow felons to vote if that's what you believe. Like, it's important if that's a concern for people and that's something that they want to push for. No one's going to move unless they have to, right? That's what we've seen in our society time and time again. So it's really up to the community. If that's something that they want to push for, they can help start to identify leaders that align with their beliefs and communicate with them, say, hey, we agree with you and we support you. And by doing that, that'll then have your elected leaders start to take the positions that you want them to take.
Absolutely. You heard that. You heard that. And go sit in those meetings too, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Definitely make sure you go to your community board meetings. A lot of issues get talked there, brought up there as well.
Anything else that I may have not asked or that you want to talk about, Kip? Or in general?
I think for me, I just want, for everyone listening, like, this is not just a New York City thing. Like, yes, from New York City, love the city, but we've set this platform up to work anywhere in the country.
Okay.
So we believe that politics should be accessible for everyone. And we didn't just do it here in the city and locally at the local level. We want it to be across all 50 states as local as possible.
Nice, nice. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let them know how they can find you.
Yep, you can find us on Instagram at Time to KYP or TikTok at Time to KYP, or you can find us on Twitter at Know Your Politician. You can also go to our website at www.timetokyp.com. You can go there right now and enter your address and see who represents you. We also have gear too if you want to support the movement as well.
You have what?
We have gear, so we have hats, sweaters, t-shirts.
You see, he's branded. He's branded. That's right.
Myself and Kavir, we've been funding this on our own, no outside money, just paying for it out of our pockets. So.
Oh, trust me, I know the feeling. We had a little conversation before we got on air today about, business.
Entrepreneurship ain't easy.
Yes, that's for sure. So before I do say goodbye to you, right? And it's Men's Mental Health Month. Is there any advice that you could give to some of our men listeners who, maybe just dealing with some challenges or don't feel safe in certain spaces and maybe just need a little bit, of encouragement?
Definitely got to talk to someone for sure. Firm believer in that. Mental health is important.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how much stress and anxiety you'll have if you don't talk and open up to someone. So,
right.
So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I want men to not think about, I got to be like, how they're told so often to man up. You got to be strong. Like I had a kid tell me that, I had to be a man and be strong. I was like, what? How old do you, because I teach to the kids poetry and stuff. So I was like, what are you talking about? You had to be a man. You are a young child. Enjoy it. And then
there's a time and place for that.
Yeah, then he had to regroup. So, like, you always have to be strong in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Because you want to balance your emotions, right? But it's okay to put it to the side and be free and just let it out.
Yeah, for sure. But in that scenario that you described, I would say instead of manning up, it's about being accountable. Like that's how I try to think about things, making sure that you're accountable instead of manning up. Different connotation and meaning.
That part. You heard it. See, I got the men here for you guys. Coming from a man, I ain't say it. So we just want to give you some love and some light. And if you have any questions or you need some resources, hit me up because I know people who know people who know people, and I know people who do great things. So it's a good look with poetry, bars, and hooks. We're about to go into DJ Swerve. You got a mix for me? Sure.
I love it.
We're about to go into a mix, and later on this afternoon, or it's still morning time, we will have some female poets. I'm not sure who's coming. I'm not sure what, because traffic and everything. But whatever happens, and that's just how it's supposed to be. It's a good look with poetry, bars, and hooks. Party 1019, iHeart Radio, the Matrix Studios Network. Now we're on Odyssey. I keep looking over here, but the screen changed. But yes, all these platforms. Tune in. We'll be right back.
Big Apple is cranking real throwbacks.
New York City.
The new Party 1019. New York's #1 for throwbacks. You found the new Party 1019.